If you're even slightly involved in the credit card game, you've likely heard the praises of the World of Hyatt credit card. But if you're a bit more involved on that travel side of the credit card game, you've also probably heard of some whispers going around about some negative things about that card. As somebody who wants to always show y'all both sides of each credit card out there, I thought it'd be a good idea for me to put my 2 cents in about this debate that's starting to form. But further than me just talking about the World of Hyatt personal credit card, I figured we might as well talk about both of these credit cards, the personal and the business version. That way we can see where these cards shine, but more surprisingly, where they're actually extremely lacking and even misleading to some degree, and why you may want to reconsider them depending on your goals. With all of that being said, this is what I found. To kick it off, let's go ahead and start with the World of Hyatt personal credit card. And naturally, as always, I want to start with talking about the rewards and benefits on this card, starting with the welcome bonus. The welcome bonus on this card at the time of me recording this video is for 30,000 points after spending $3,000 on purchases in the first 3 months from having the account. And then the second part of the bonus, which you can find online, is that you can earn up to 30,000 more bonus points by earning a total of 2 bonus points per dollar spent in the first 6 months from opening the account on purchases that normally earn 1 bonus point on up to $15,000 spent. So off the bat, you can kind of tell that the bonus sounds pretty good, but this is where I already have my first problem with the World of Hyatt personal credit card specifically, and that is that this bonus is pretty misleading. The reason I say that is because in reality, all that this bonus is giving you, at least the second part of that bonus, is an additional 1x on that base 1x category for all your other purchases that fall outside of a main category. And if it's up to $15,000 worth of spend, you're only getting an additional 1x, meaning you're getting an additional 15,000 points, not 30,000 points. Of course, for all of that $15,000 worth of spend in that category, you're not going to be getting 30,000 points, but to market it as saying that you're getting an additional 30,000 is just not accurate. There are still reasons why you would want to spend that extra $15,000 on the card as part of the welcome bonus, aside from the bonus points, and we're going to get into that later, so just hold your horses on that. Now let's get into the earning categories of this card. First, you're going to get 9x back on Hyatt purchases. That's 4 bonus points per dollar spent at Hyatt hotels and 5 base points per dollar that you earn as just being a World of Hyatt member. You also get 2x back on restaurants, on airline tickets purchased directly from the airline, local transit and commuting, as well as fitness club and gym memberships, and then 1x back on everything else. So right here is another problem that I have with the World of Hyatt credit card, and that's that it actually has some misleading earning categories. When I was breaking down that 9x back you get at Hyatt properties, you might have kind of caught on to what I'm saying here already, but the way that Chase and Hyatt advertise that 9x category is not exactly that beneficial, because in reality, this card is only giving you 4x back on Hyatt properties. You get the 5x back by being a World of Hyatt member, but you do not have to have the card to be a World of Hyatt member. So like, for example, myself, I don't have the card, but I'm getting 5x back on all of my Hyatt purchases no matter what. So what the World of Hyatt card gives you is just an additional 4x back. This is just, again, pretty similar to the sneaky ways that they market the welcome bonus as well. And to me, that's just annoying as a consumer that they would do it that way. Of course, is this a game changer that you're not getting actually 9x because you have the card? Not necessarily. It's just another one of those things that makes me want to analyze these cards more and see where else they have some secrets. Now, speaking of earning categories though, maximizing those, especially going into the holiday season, is really important. And that's why I'd recommend that you start using Kudos before that holiday shopping so you can maximize your rewards. For example, imagine you're about to spend $1,000 on booking.com, but you decide to check out with Kudos. Instead of just getting $30 back that you normally would on a card like the Chase Sapphire Reserve, you're now going to receive double that, being $60 for that exact same booking just because you used Kudos. But that's not all Kudos is good for. I personally actually use Kudos a lot just to help me store my card information in a safe place, because I don't know about you, but whenever I go online and make a purchase, I love to be able to just copy my card numbers over and not have to go pull them out of my wallet or pull them out of my credit card binder if I need to find it. So having them store that information for me and also recommend which card I should use depending on where I'm shopping, that's really important to me because I do a lot of shopping online. In my opinion, downloading Kudos is a no-brainer. It's a free thing that you can do and it just saves you money, so why wouldn't you do it? All you have to do is just download Kudos to your desktop or to your phone, and then you just shop like normal, and Kudos is going to help you do the rest and save you money in the process. So again, I'd just say that it's time to stop wasting money and join over 150,000 Kudos users who are saving on average over $750 per year just because they downloaded it. That's a lot of extra gifts you can buy this holiday season, so I'd strongly consider it. If you do decide to download it, please be sure to enter the code Spencer whenever you do so, and you can find that download link in my description or just go to join joinkudos.com/Spencer. Once again, that's joinkudos.com/Spencer, so they know that I sent you. By using my code, you not only show my channel support, but you also show them, where you came from. So if you do decide to do so, I really appreciate that. But now let's get back to talking about these Hyatt credit cards. Still speaking on the personal Hyatt credit card, the next thing we want to talk about is going to be the annual fee. Now, this card does have a very manageable annual fee of $95 a year. And in my opinion, this obviously is not too bad at all, considering a lot of hotel credit cards out there have this $95 annual fee on them. And it's really easy to make that annual fee back every single year, even with just a one night stay, as we're going to talk about here in a second. Speaking of, let's just move into the perks and benefits of this card now. The first and biggest one that we're going to be talking about here today is that with having this card, you will get a free night award every single year after your card member anniversary at any category 1 through 4 Hyatt hotel or resort. Now, like I just mentioned, this one night stay right here that you would use the free night on will easily give you positive value on this card if that fits your travel habits. And what I mean by fitting your travel habits is, are you somebody that does want to stay at a category 1 through 4 Hyatt hotel at least once a year? If not, then this free night certificate is going to be more work than it's worth, and it's just, maybe not worth even sacrificing a 524 slot for this card. Now, that question though is especially important to answer these days, because at the beginning of this year, Hyatt did some shifting among the hotels that they have in different categories, which mean that there are less options for you to get a lot of value from a category 1 through 4 hotel than there used to be. But then again, for somebody like me, it would not be hard at all for me to get positive value from that category 1 through 4 night. And I think that's the case for a lot of people as well, but I still want to talk about the downsides of it. Speaking of the downsides though, one of the biggest ones that I constantly forget about, and maybe you do too, is that you actually will not get a free night certificate until after your first anniversary year. So in that first year of you having the card, you're going to get positive value from the welcome bonus, of course, but you actually don't get a free night certificate. Another thing to note is something that my buddy Luke's Points and Miles brings up all the time about this card, and that's that if you are really worried about staying at a category 1 through 4, you could very easily just use your Chase Ultimate Reward point earning cards and then transfer those points to Hyatt, and you can stay for free in the same fashion. And that's completely fair. But at the same time, for me, I'm not going to just pass up on a free night because I could also just use points from another place. And any less Chase points that I have to use every year is a positive in my book. But again, that might not fit Luke's travel habits while it does mine right now. And that's something you have to decide for yourself. If you're somebody that's a little bit worried about how much value you could really get from a category 1 through 4 free night certificate, one example in a video that I saw by Daniel Shepard, who made a great video on the Personal World of Hyatt card, was a category 4 hotel called the Hyatt Regency Westlake in California. And that hotel had a value of about $350, but only required 12,000 Hyatt points, which is a 2.8 cent per point redemption, but you could also use a free night certificate on that because it is a category 4 hotel. So if you're paying $95 to get a room that's worth $350, in my opinion, the math works out to where I'm comfortable paying for that annual fee every single year. Once again though, that's what works for me, and maybe it's not worth the effort for you. Another benefit about this card though is that for every $15,000 worth of spend you put on it, you will get another free night certificate at a category 1 through 4 hotel. But in my opinion, unless you're somebody that's either going for that second part of the welcome bonus that we talked about earlier, or you're somebody that's just chasing status and is putting a ton of spend on this card, $15,000 worth of spend for a category 1 through 4 that might be worth up to like $350 or whatever is not necessarily worth it in my opinion. The reason I say it's maybe not unless you're chasing status is because if you put that same $15,000 worth of spend into like 3 other card bonuses, you could be earning thousands of dollars in value for that same exact amount of spend. So I personally wouldn't want to sacrifice that much spend for just a category 1 through 4 hotel. There are of course other perks and benefits with this card that we're not going to cover here today, but these are the main ones that I wanted to talk about. In making this video, I did want to make a quick section for both of these credit cards here that is just dedicated to Hyatt status, because as we're going to talk about later, I think that is a huge reason that these cards are valuable, and it's worth talking about for a couple minutes. As for the Personal World of Hyatt card, you're going to get free Discoverist status just for holding it. Now, getting this second tier with Hyatt is pretty decent status for a $95 annual fee card, and it's going to give you extra perks on top of that base membership, including premium internet, free bottled water, preferred room check-in with the type that you book, elite check-in, late checkout at 2 p.m., and more. But at the same time, if you're somebody traveling even just like semi-frequently with Hyatt, you'd probably hit this status even without the card because you only need to stay 10 nights to hit it. So how valuable is it really going to be to you? I guess that kind of depends. But at the same time, if you are somebody that is chasing higher status than just Discoverist, one thing that you may really want this card for is that it gives you an automatic 5 qualifying nights every year just for holding it, which is actually not something you even get on the higher annual fee business version of this card. On top of that, you can also earn an additional 2 qualifying nights for every $5,000 of spend you put on this card. But as we're going to talk about with the business credit card, you'd likely want to be putting a majority of your spend towards status on the business version instead of this one. That is, of course, unless you really want those category 1 through 4 hotels for every $15,000 worth of spend you put on this card, because that you do not get with the business version. As for my overall impressions of the personal World of Hyatt credit card, I would say that this card definitely has its strengths and definitely has its weaknesses, but to me, you're going to easily be getting back over $95 a year from holding this card if you just book one night stay at a category 1 through 4 hotel. So if you're happy to stay at those types of properties like I am, then there's not much of a reason to not get this card. And like I just mentioned, if you're somebody chasing status, those automatic 5 qualifying nights just for holding it is huge. Plus you do get free Discoverist, and you do have that ability to earn some free night certificates if you do put a lot of spend on this card. So if it's worth it to sacrifice a 524 slot for you is going to be, of course, up to you. But I would say that a vast majority of people, even just like barely ever staying at Hyatt's, will likely get positive value from this card if they're okay with sacrificing that 524 slot. Oh, also, I'd be remiss not to mention in this video at some point that Hyatt has been rumored to release a luxury Hyatt credit card somewhat soon. And if that's the case, then this personal lineup of Hyatt credit cards might get a lot stronger. I'm not going to speculate too much on this, but if for some reason Hyatt is watching this video, one thing I would say that they should definitely not add to that luxury credit card is automatic globalist status. Having to earn your way to status with Hyatt is one of the biggest things that separates them from other hotel brands. So if they were to give that to you automatically, I think that'd be a huge miss on Hyatt's part and it would really hurt their brand. But I guess we're just going to have to see what happens. Now let's get into the World of Hyatt business credit card, and we're going to get through this one a little bit quicker. Starting again with the welcome bonus. The welcome bonus on this card is to earn 60,000 bonus points after spending $5,000 on purchases in the first 3 months of having the account. And I have found that sometimes you can find an offer for like 75,000 points, but that extra 15,000 points requires like $12,000 worth of spend. So again, if that's worth it for you or not, I don't really know, especially because you're also not getting a free night certificate for having that spend like you would on the personal card. Another kind of weird thing that they do with the marketing of this welcome bonus that I just don't necessarily love is that on their website, they market this offer as being enough to get you like 12 free nights at a category 1 hotel. And I don't know who in their right mind is booking 12 nights at a category 1 hotel. Maybe business owners do this for their employees or something like that. But as for us like travel credit card users, that's not going to be that valuable. The welcome bonus itself though is good at that base 60,000 points. So that's a reason that I could personally see myself getting this card. Now let's go ahead and run through the earning categories. Once again, you'll be getting 9x back on Hyatt purchases, which we now know is not that helpful to say because that's again just 4x back because you have this card, and then 5x back for being a Hyatt member, which you don't need to have this card to get. So really 4x back on Hyatts. You also will get 2x back on fitness club and gym memberships, on top of 2x back on your 3 highest eligible spend categories out of the list shown on screen right now. And that is every quarter until December 31st of 2024. And then after that, it's going to drop down to your top 2 highest eligible spend categories. And then of course, 1x back on everything else. So some of my hesitations with the earning categories on this card are going to, of course, first start with that misleading marketing of the 9x back at Hyatt properties, but we've already covered that. But on top of that, the earning categories on this card just really aren't that strong, especially when you compare them with Chase's business cards, for example. On the Chase Ink Cash, you're going to have your gas, internet, cable, and phone services and dining covered at 2 to 5x. And those points, again, with a higher tier Chase card, could be transferred to Hyatt if you wanted to. And then if you had the Chase Ink Preferred, which would allow you to transfer those points out, then you have shipping, advertising, and travel all covered at 3x, which makes the earning rates on this World of Hyatt business credit card just not that helpful. And further than that, both of the Ink cards that I just mentioned have more categories than the ones I said, and the Chase Ink Cash has no annual fee, while the Chase Ink Preferred has a $95 annual fee, which is half as expensive as just holding this one World of Hyatt card. Another complaint that I have with the earning categories is that a lot of them are just the same as the personal version, which in typical Chase fashion, I guess makes sense. The personal card is going to have the same exact earning categories when it comes to Hyatt properties, restaurants, airlines, local transit and commuting, as well as fitness club and gym memberships. Now, while that is annoying, as we're going to see later, if you're chasing status with Hyatt, the overlap matters a little bit less because you're going to be putting basically all of your spend on this card. But we'll get there in just a second. As for the annual fee on this card, you're going to have to pay $199 a year to hold it. And to me, that is is a negative because there are less ways to recoup value from this card than there even are on the personal version with a lower annual fee. Moving into the perks and benefits, the biggest miss on this card is that it doesn't offer you any kind of free night. I guess from their standpoint, it makes sense because then they want you to not only get the business version, but get the personal version as well. But obviously as a consumer, we don't want to have to do that if we don't want to. And we'd also just like an extra free night if we could get that. But there are some ways to recoup value back from this annual fee. First, they offer $100 in Hyatt statement credits. That is when you spend $50 or more at any Hyatt property, because you will earn $50 in statement credits back on those purchases up to 2 times every year. Now, this isn't a bad credit at all. We see this on other hotel cards as well. So I would say that it's a good one to have. And for me personally, I'd probably use this credit for like food at the resorts that I'm staying at with Hyatt, because knowing me, I'd rather book my room with points and then use cash for everything else. This card also will give you a 10% redemption bonus, which comes to you after you spend $50,000 in a calendar year, but you only get 10% back up to 200,000 points redeemed. In my opinion, this is obviously way too much spend for what you're going to get in return. You basically get a max of 20,000 points back after redeeming 200,000 Hyatt points in a year. But at the same time, I keep coming back to this. If you are chasing Hyatt status and are just putting a ton of spend on this card anyways, then getting this extra bonus is actually a really nice thing. It's just obviously not something that you want to chase after if you are not somebody trying to put a lot of spend on this card in the first place. There's also something called a Hyatt Leverage membership that comes with this card, which I really hadn't heard of before. And what it says online is that it basically will give you discounts on standard room rates at all participating Hyatt hotels. And the program will basically offer you 15% off on all those participating properties for your company. They also market it as something where you can enjoy an average savings of over $350 per year. So if you have experience with this, please go ahead and leave those down below, because I'm sure that would help someone out, including myself, to be honest. Now, getting into the status section of the review of this card is, I think, where you're going to be able to see a lot of power with it. For one, though, you are going to get automatic Discover status by holding this card once again. Now, obviously, this is no higher status than the personal card gives you, so overlapping there once again. But at the same time, I don't think that the annual fee is high enough to automatically grant you Explorer status, so I don't see why they would give that to you. And maybe they are just holding out on giving you that until they release that luxury personal card. Who knows? The one difference between the personal and the business versions, though, is that with the business card, you can gift up to 5 employees Discover status as well. Considering you can also add those employee cards at no additional cost, could actually make this perk cover the annual fee for you every single year, depending on how many employees you have. Now, the big thing here about status, though, is something that I've been referencing this whole time, and it's why you'd want to put basically all of your spend on this card if you're spending towards status, is that you will earn 5 qualifying nights for every $10,000 spent on this card. The reason that's a somewhat big deal is because on the personal card, you get 2 free nights for every $5,000 spent. So technically this is more efficient to put all of your spend on the business version instead, because you'll get an extra 1 free night for every $10,000 you spend on it. Say, for example, you were trying to spend towards Explorer status starting from scratch. If you had both the personal and the business versions, you get 5 qualifying nights on the personal card just for holding it. And then to spend enough to get those 25 extra qualifying nights you need, with the business card, you'd only have to spend $50,000. And with the personal card, you'd have to spend $65,000. Granted, on the personal card, though, you will be getting category 1 through 4 hotels for all of that spend, 4 of them to be exact. And on the business card, you're getting none of those. Hyatt also has these milestone rewards for every milestone of number of qualifying nights you hit. So if you were somebody that's spending on this card either way to try to get to status, by the time you hit that 30 qualifying night mark, you would get an additional 4 total club lounge access awards and 1 category 1 through 4 free night certificate for spending that much. Of course, this was a very simplistic breakdown of how much you'd have to spend and stuff to get Explorer status, because if you're somebody that's not actually staying at Hyatt's at any point in that entire journey, then you probably shouldn't be spending towards status anyways, obviously. So in reality, you might only have to spend towards like 10 qualifying nights, and that would change the math here a lot, but I just wanted to paint the picture for you. So my overall impressions of the business card is that it honestly is a great card if you're a high spender and you're somebody looking for Hyatt status. But for somebody like myself who is not doing that right now and definitely doesn't have super high spend, the only reason I would get this card is for the welcome bonus. If I was chasing that status, though, there's no reason I wouldn't get this card, especially because it doesn't add to my 524 account as it's a business card. And if I didn't get positive value out of it in year 2, I could cancel it without affecting my personal credit report once again, because it's a business credit card. Now, let me go ahead and give y'all my final thoughts on both of these cards so you can kind of decide whether or not you should be applying for them. In reality, I really only see the vast majority of people ever needing the personal version of these two cards, and that's something that I definitely plan to do myself. But is this going to be a card that I'm breaking my back to get under 524 for? Absolutely not. It really doesn't give me like that much more than I already have with my other chase cards, because as Luke says, if you do have other chase cards, you can just transfer your points over to Hyatt if you want to. That makes that free night less of a necessity, but still at the same time, it is a good perk to have. So as long as I'm not personally chasing status and don't necessarily need that free night certificate, it's not going to be something that I'm like super worried about. But if I ever do find myself under 524, there's no reason I would not pick up at least one of these cards. Honing in on the personal card only, if you're somebody that just does not want to be bothered with staying at a category 1 through 4 every year or getting under 524 to be able to do so, I don't blame you at all. I don't think that this card is mandatory in everybody's setups, even if you travel with Hyatt frequently. But if you are somebody that wants status with Hyatt, you should probably be getting this card. The automatic 5 qualifying nights is huge. And then of course, when you combine that with the business card where you can just, put all of your spend on that and earn a bunch of qualifying nights that way, you technically saved yourself $10,000 by having the personal card. So why would you not get both? But I hope that by the end of this video, you can kind of tell now whether or not these cards are actually worth it for you or not. And if you're somebody that likes the idea of not being tied down to just one hotel chain specifically, go ahead and watch this video next where I break down the best premium travel credit cards on the market right now. And as always, Odin and I both want to say thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel, and we'll catch you guys next time.